I watched a video where Apostle Joshua Selman said, sometimes you get to your promised land and it looks like a wilderness. Whew! And it hit me to the core. I felt it in my bones. The wilderness was an answered prayer for the Israelites. They were once crying, right? They were once crying for salvation. They were once crying for God to save them. But when salvation came in an unexpected way, they assumed it wasn't what they wanted. Even the wilderness was a promised land. But it takes discernment, right? Discernment to know what is what and who is who. You ask God for strength, then He sends chaos. You ask God for patience, right? Then He sends things that will test your patience. You ask God for growth, then He sends rain. You ask Him to make you humble, then He brings situations that causes your pride, your ego, right, to be bruised. It didn't answer in the way you expected Him to, right? It didn't come true in the way you were expecting Him to. The grand entry, He didn't make that grand entry, right? But it's still answered. Whether or not it's exactly what you asked for, He answered, but in an unusual way, right? And this is where most of us miss it, right? Thinking we did not receive an answer just because what we got is not exactly what we pictured, right? What we asked for, what we requested for. Like I always say, this walk with God is not one for the faint-hearted. It's not a walk at the park. You will not always have an understanding, right, of the happenings around you. But along the line and with faith, it starts making sense. May we not run away from our promised land just because it is not what we envisioned, right? We saw this with the Israelites a lot. They kept referring back to Egypt because they were promised a land filled with milk and honey. And upon arrival, they saw thorns. They felt they were better off being left at Egypt than being brought into the wilderness. And I believe that's how most of us feel when we ask for something and then another thing pops up. But sometimes, right, we are one wilderness away from the actual thing. We are one wilderness away from our promised land. I pray we receive the gift of discernment, right, to know what God is saying, even in the midst of chaos, to know what God is saying when He brings us the answers that we do not desire. I pray that we receive that gift of spirit, right, to help us to know what is what and who is who. See you soon. Bye.